a.m. today after bad weather stopped operations on Wednesday night. The rig was pounded by high winds and heavy seas for more than 38 hours, but it was not in any danger. Premier Gray braved the elements and visited the huge platform 20 kilometres out to sea from Strahan on the west coast during yesterday's gale. Trevor Sutton reports.
Gale force winds up to 50 knots and rough seas buffeted the Diamond M Epoch for the first time since drilling started on July the 2nd. Even with the large legs submerged to 55 feet and 16 anchors securely holding the barge, drilling was halted because of the severe weather conditions. However, this didn't stop the Premier Robin Gray from flying out to the rig in a large Okanagan helicopter with company officials for a tour of the operations. When the drilling program was stopped at 9 on Wednesday night, the well had been drilled to 5,013 feet, still a long way from the projected target depth of 12,000 feet. While no one from the partners involved with the project are giving any information on the results of tests so far on the Wildcat well, company officials are quick to point out that the chances of striking it big are only 1 in 10. Premier Robin Gray is hopeful that the venture will be successful.
Obviously, we're hoping that, our luck might turn and we might find oil out there, but as the company says, it's a pretty long shot, perhaps 1 in 10 to find any commercial prospect at all and 1 in 900 for a commercial field, so it is a long shot, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
At 1 p.m, another helicopter lands. This time, the Premier arrives from Queenstown after a flying trip up by car from Hobart. 12 minutes from liftoff to touchdown. From the beach at Strahan, we count a line of 17 breakers stretching out to sea, conditions far from ideal. A gale warning issued for the west coast with winds of more than 50 knots and rough seas. As we fly out, we think about the fishermen, those hardy souls that work the coast for crays and abalone. It's not much fun punching into this kind of sea and being caught out in it. It certainly wouldn't be pleasant. Then we spot the rig, and the sea appears to be boiling around its base. We circle close, and it appears that it's virtually standing still, taking the full brunt of the gale. The Epoch has a displacement of 16,000 tons with a working draft of 55 feet. She has a total of 16 large anchors to keep her securely in the right position over the wellhead. Although designed to withstand 100-knot winds and gigantic seas, these conditions being experienced are enough to stop the drilling program. On landing on the helipad, we remember the warning that the deck will be slippery and to hold our hard hats securely in case one should fly off and become ingested in the helicopter's engines. But it's very difficult to make our way across the pad. Even the Premier, Mr. Gray, has a rough time keeping his balance on the way to the railing. Just 4 weeks ago, the Epoch was towed into this position, and the sea was reminiscent of a mill pond. No wind, and just a slight swell. A stark contrast and typical of Tasmania's notorious west coast weather. Premier Gray wasted no time in familiarising himself with the operation of the drilling program and was taken on a cook's tour by Drilling Superintendent James McCouche.
As you've seen in your trip around the Epoch, there are all disciplines involved, from mechanical, electrical through evaluating disciplines. The Epoch itself is probably one of the latest generations of semi-submersible drilling rigs. It has the capability to drill to 20,000 feet as necessary. It's mostly affected by the weather. Up until now we've been very fortunate. Today it's pretty bad. We can't run anchors per se or come on location in much more than perhaps a 10 or 12 foot sea. However, that doesn't affect drilling operations once we get started. Through the running of casing and the running of the riser that brings the mud back to the surface, or drilling fluid back to the surface, that also cannot be done in much in excess of 12 foot seas. The drilling operation can continue in up to around 15 to 18 foot seas. However, it's mostly affected by the response of the drilling vessel to the seas. And as you saw today, we're somewhat off location, a factor of about 25 to 30 feet. And in addition to that, the rig is heaving up and down motion in the region of 15 to 18 feet. And that would preclude any further drilling operations. At the moment, we're shut down waiting on weather, and if the weather were to worsen, we would have to consider unlatching or disconnecting the subsea riser system that connects us with the ocean floor blowout preventer stack and wellhead. If it gets just a little bit better, we'll then consider repositioning somewhat and perhaps going back to drilling.
Well, now, when you have to shut down like that, for instance, and you leave the actual wellhead on the floor, on the sea floor,
Yeah.
can you reposition back over that quite easily again afterwards, can you?
Oh yes, it's quite easy to do that. We have several aids. We have guide wires constantly connected to the ocean floor, and of course they give us an indication on whether or not they're vertical. In addition, we have two complete subsea television systems. One run on the guide wires, and the other is a freely swimming television system, which also has two manipulator arms and can do some small subsea functions, and we can use those to reposition the hanging riser package over the wellhead and latch in again.
Now, has the weather put you off target then?
At the moment we are off target in that we are pushed off location. Unusually kind to us so far, and this is the first time we've been shut down.
Well, under normal operations, how much can you drill a day, or how many feet can you go a day?
Of course, that's entirely dependent on the lithology. In 2 minutes, okay. Apparently we're
Helicopter's
leaving.
coming.
Yes, indeed, helicopter in 2 minutes. We would normally make anything from 300 to 500 to perhaps 800 feet a day, depending on the operation. The interesting thing about offshore floating operations in a case like this with a semi-submersible is that the actual drilling time is a small percentage of the total operation. It may only be 20 to 30% in many cases, so that the amount you drill per day is not just the drilling time and the amount of time it takes to keep on adding extra pipe to drill. There are many reasons to shut down, to change the bit and do other functions to take care of our safety systems too. It's necessary to keep retesting our blowout preventer systems on bottom. They're rated to 10,000 psi. We normally test them to a working pressure in the region of 3,000 to 5,000 psi. But this is just another of the reasons that we shut down and constantly check our business as we're going through the drilling operation total.
Well, I noticed that coming onto the rig today, everyone is very safety conscious. Is there a real reason for that?
Well, of course, the major difference in drilling onshore and offshore is that offshore one can't run away, and that makes one more safety conscious as far as personnel are concerned.
But it's dangerous work there, working on a rig at sea.
It's hard to say that it's dangerous work. It would be unfair. It would be perhaps dangerous to imprudent or untrained. And you would also notice that as we conducted our tour today, not only did you have the people conducting the tour, but all around you had one or two of the rig supervisors making sure that we didn't have a problem with perhaps someone getting into a dangerous situation, to use your words. It's pretty bad if you simply fall overboard, but we conduct regular drills associated not only with the wellbore but also with fire control and with ship abandonment. The work itself is shall we say, skilled rather than inherently dangerous.
Well, the big question everyone is asking, of course, is $10 to $15 million worth. The question, how lucky can we be?
Well, one must always hope, and it's a long way to come just on a hope, but perhaps to put things in perspective, exploratory drilling in rank wildcat situations is normally successful in about 10 to 15% of the operations, and many of the rest of the drilling that's conducted throughout the world is in fact in-field drilling and development drilling. In rank exploration, I'm afraid it's not just as easy as it's sometimes thought to be.
So while the drilling is now well underway, we can only wonder at what our chances really are. An oil strike in this region that eventually becomes a producer is likely to have a profound effect on the whole of the West Coast and subsequently the economy of the state. As a wildcat well, it's like taking a ticket in the lottery, but the chances of winning or pulling off the big prize are substantially better. With an outlay of up to $175,000 a day, it's quite a gamble.
Well, I guess they based their decision to come here on some pretty important seismic survey results, and that's promising in itself. But even after that, you know, once they start drilling, it is a long shot, and you know, we can only hope that it turns out well for Tasmania.
What about the west coast now? You've seen it at its worst, haven't you, really, out in, 12 miles off the coast and really rough weather?
Well, it was really a rough day. I found it one of the most relaxing days I've had since I came to office, so, you know, I was very impressed.